So I just spent half the day getting called fat by the leftist soy boys on Twitter because I posted a picture in this mask that I bought on Etsy that, provides me about as much protection as, well, any other mask out there, which is to say not a whole heck of a lot. And I posted the picture kind of making a joke, and it got retweeted by some big leftist account, and then all of the leftist soy boys invaded my Twitter to call me fat for 4 hours, which is always a thrilling thing. But I found it a little bit ironic because I literally had this article on my desktop about how dieting is racist. And God knows I wouldn't want to be a white supremacist, so let's read this article together so I can learn how to dismantle my inherent white supremacy if I want to lose weight to make all the leftist soy boys on Twitter happy. Now, listen, I don't take this stuff seriously. I don't really care if you made comments about my body. It is what it is, man. I'm like almost 40 goddamn years old. I've been married for 10 years. I don't need to look pretty for you. You don't like it? Then don't flip and watch. So don't worry, I don't get too bent out of shape with this stuff. I just think it's ironic that isn't fat studies and body positivity one of their little protected classes of things? And yet when a woman says something they don't like, the very first thing they do is call her fat. Too bad, so sad. All right, let's read this article. It's been more than 5 years since I became a fitness and strength coach. Since then, I've become very well acquainted with body liberation and the general body positivity space. But to this day, I can't help but notice that this space continues to be overwhelmingly white. Well, we wouldn't want that now, would we? Body positivity. Actually, maybe this is why I'm getting insulted by the little leftists on Twitter. If the body positivity space is too white, why would they want to have white women have any sort of positive body image if it doesn't subscribe specifically to the models that they see on TV? Body positivity was originally created as an antithesis to diet culture to help marginalized people, read fat, queer, trans, bodies of color, and more, feel more. I hate how they call people honestly, bodies of color. This drives me nuts. How they call people bodies instead of human beings. This is the most dehumanizing phrase in the world. Never call someone a body. What are you doing? Your body is not who you are, man. It's just your goddamn vessel. Feel worthy of self-love because for too long society has told them they weren't. Well, I was told by a lot of liberals on Twitter today that I wasn't, but okay. These days, however, body positivity hashtags on social media are often flooded with photos of non-marginalized bodies. Read cis, thin, white women. And the movement has been co-opted by people who were never intended to be at the center of these conversations. Oh, I get it. I don't get to have positive body image because I'm white. Got it. And straight and cis and all these things. Oh, my mistake. I made the mistake of thinking that body positivity was for everyone, not just people who aren't white. Not only that, but the body positivity movement tends to hyper-focus on individual self-love without acknowledging the intersections of identity that can make it more difficult for some people to feel safe in their bodies. And trust me, we need to talk about these interactions. I've been writing about wellness and anti-racism for years now, and yet I still get nasty DMs and emails from people who are upset that I'm discussing these topics. Oh, you get mean DMs? Oh, really? I had hundreds of people today in my Twitter. You get a mean DM. Come on. Grow a thick GD skin. It's just Twitter. It's not fun, but it further solidifies that I need to continue. Because black bodies, including my own, are being harmed with a space that was created to center us. As such, we have to question our cultural obsession with thin, white bodies and our incessant desire to pursue the status quo. In part, that desire stems heavily from the fact that diet culture is heavily rooted in racism. Oh, tell me more. As Sabrina Strings, PhD, discussed in her book, Fearing the Black Body, the Racial Origins of Fat Phobia. Someone literally got a book published on this topic. Can we just pause and reflect that someone literally got a book published with a subtitle, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia? Yeah. You listen, man, if you want to write a book and you're afraid that you can't find a publisher for your book, just remind yourself that someone literally got a book published about the racial origins of fat phobia. Just write your book, man. Just do it. You can find a publisher for it, I promise. Black people have historically and intentionally been linked with fatness dating far back as the 19th century. And then the article says some pretty racist stuff that I ain't gonna say in this video because I don't want it to get demonetized. Just trust me. I'll link it below. You can go read it. Over time, this connection between Black people and gluttony has become internalized and upheld, making diet culture's rejection of larger bodies inherently racist. Hang on. The connection between Black people and gluttony has been internalized. And that means that diet culture's rejection of larger bodies is inherently racist. What? Okay, because some people said some things about Black bodies throughout. Oh God, I just used that term I hate, but like, this stuff gets in your head, man. But like, someone said something in history, and that means that's been internalized as part of the Black culture, which makes dieting racist. That's really what this says. All right. Today, many of us learn to internalize these beliefs from an early age. For example, Lauren, a Philadelphia-based body-positive trainer and coach, says diet culture has influenced her for as long as she can remember, particularly as a Black woman who has a white mom and was raised in white-centered spaces. Okay. You know, I did a teacher education training a little while back where they were asked about mixed race kids, and they were like, well, how do you handle this in relation to diversity, equity, and inclusion? And what they said, was in a literal teacher training. They said that they should teach the children not to identify with the white part of themselves, to only identify with the person of color in their family. I'm not making that up. I spent much of my life believing the lies of diet culture, and reality is that no amount of thinness is going to make me more aligned with whiteness. I could be thinner, but I couldn't ever truly attain ethnocentric standards of beauty. I could never be white. Plus, mainstream nutrition advice often leaves out Black people. The dietetics industry in the US is overwhelmingly white. Roughly 78% of all registered dietitians are white, while just 2.6% are Black, 3.3% are Hispanic and Latinx, and 3.9% are Asian, according to the statistics from the Commission on Dietetic Registration. With little diversity among RDs, the advice they dole out tends to be non-inclusive as well. I mean, am I crazy to think that dieting... And there are periods in my life where I've like lost a lot of weight and actually gotten my butt in shape. But like, am I wrong to think that dieting is really about thinking about the types of foods you eat and how many calories you're taking in and how many calories you're burning? Is that different? Like, I'm actually asking, is that different among different races? That it's about the composition of the foods that you're eating, how many calories you're eating, and how many calories you're burning on any given day? Does that change for Black people? I mean, I don't know. I just thought this was all math. Diet culture is rooted in racism in multiple ways, from the way people talk about fat bodies to the ways mainstream dietitians and wellness professionals deem certain foods bad without considering the cultural implications, says a person with a name I can't pronounce, a fat-positive activist and powerlifter. The nutrition advice given is often centered in whiteness without acknowledging the ties of capitalism, racism, and white supremacy, which all lead to a lack of accessibility as well as food deserts. Okay, so you notice how they always try, keep an eye on this when you're reading this woke nonsense. They always try to tie it back to capitalism in some way, shape, or form, because none of this woke stuff is about racism or fat positive or body positivity or any of this stuff. That's not what this is about at all. When you walk this stuff back, it is almost always a direct attack on capitalism. Even that, remember that defensive looting book that came out over the summer that I read like 2 chapters of before giving up? That was about attacking capitalism. It was about justifying looting as a way to attack property rights, as a way to attack capitalism, because at their core, These people are Marxists. That's what they are. They're doing everything they can to undermine the system that we have to install a new system. That's why they focus on systemic racism. Systemic racism, when you keep walking it back and back and back and back and back, really all about capitalism at the end of the day. Not like 90% of it is. That's where the path leads to. And this is the method they've chosen to get there. Food deserts, in case you don't know, are areas where access to affordable, healthy food options, fresh fruits and veggies, whole grain, lean meats, is limited or some cases non-existent because grocery stores are too far away or too expensive. Communities of colors tend to face the most difficulty accessing grocery stores. Only 8% of Black people in the U.S. live in a census tract, a region defined for the purpose of taking the census, with an average population of 4,000, with a supermarket, compared to 31% of white people, according to statistics from the Southern Poverty Law Center's Teaching Tolerance Program. Dude, I didn't have a supermarket near me growing up. I don't even think I had a supermarket near me until I was damn near 30 flippin' years old. There are ways to get food. It does not make food like an impossibility. Delina Soto, an anti-diet. Imagine being an anti-diet dietitian. This is actually her title. An anti-diet dietitian who specializes in helping Latinx people and chronic eating, says she experienced a disconnect between nutrition in her own home and diet culture's take on food firsthand. Growing up in the Dominican household, the main source of vegetables were lettuce, tomatoes, and cucumbers, shares Soto. While mainstream wellness talks about what it means to eat healthy and have lots of colors on your plate, it didn't resonate with me. Our food wasn't colorful. Dude, lettuce is green, tomatoes are red, cucumbers are green. Those are colors. Those are colors. You can also get like purple cabbage. Purple is a color. I was exposed to more root vegetables that weren't very colorful, but full of nutrition, so my vegetables were just different from what is mainstream in the U.S. hierarchy of food, and what we value as healthy in mainstream fitness and wellness is often based on ethnocentric standards. Because your food isn't a color, are you a child? Do you need your food to be... Okay. Additionally, the narrative of food is fuel is often pushed without considering that for many BIPOC cultures, food represents a place of gathering and community. All right, I think this is actually a kind of legit point. There are absolutely cultures in which like families gather around the table and it's like all about cooking and all this food, especially in the South, man. And so I actually think that this could be a fair point. If food is part of how you bond with members of your family, then that's a legitimate argument, frankly, regardless of your skin color, because it's not just non-white people that bond with people over food. Food can also be a source of comfort, like when you're stressed out, like you go to the fridge, you pull something out, you eat it, it makes you feel better, it gives you that comfort. So I'm not necessarily poo-pooing all of the ideas in this article because I think that some of them are valid, but you don't have to frame this as dieting is racist in order to make these points. It's not just about fueling our bodies, explains Patterson. It's also about nourishing our bodies and our spirits. Food is culture. White culture tends to focus more on the Wow. White culture tends to focus more on the individual, while BIPOC culture is rooted more in collectivism and community. Collectivism. Marxism, which of course is not true for all cultures that are not white. That is like provably not true. And of course, white culture is not based on the individual, but these are the generalizations we make when crap like this ends up in the Smithsonian. It's great that body positivity inspires so many people to love and accept themselves. But the fact is, body positivity isn't just about loving your own body. Hang on, weren't they just ragging on white people for focusing on the individual? And then they're like, body positivity is about accepting yourself and loving yourself. Of course, that's a contradiction, which is why they have to immediately kind of dismantle it. But the fact is, body positivity isn't just about loving your own body. You have to love all bodies. It's about demanding justice for all bodies, especially those who face the most discrimination. Body positivity must not only acknowledge, but celebrate the intersections of identity that too often make it harder for people to arrive at a place of self-love, particularly within a society that caters to an Eurocentric beauty standards. If we are dismantling diet culture and the systems of oppression that uphold it, the same systems that make it difficult for BIPOC to feel safer in their bodies, whether they're simply out birdwatching in Central Park or seeking help from an RD, then the body positivity movement is meaningless. I think body positivity has definitely been co-opted, which is a huge part of the reason I don't center myself as a part of my Instagram page. Because these people literally think that, like, social media is real life. I realize that I do fit some of the ideal Eurocentric standards of beauty, and I check some of those boxes. So instead of censoring my body and myself on my Instagram page, I elevate the voices of those who don't have as much privilege as I do. I think it's important that we begin to acknowledge our privilege within this space and understand the roots of the movement. Well, don't you get a whole metric F ton of virtue points. Collectively, we can all take steps to educate ourselves and others about systemic racism in diet culture. The truth is, we all have learning to do. Whether we consciously realize it or not, we're all influenced by diet culture, racism, and the inextricable link between the two. It's not easy, but we have to recognize this in order to understand their roots in anti-blackness and fat phobia. I would start by realizing where the thin ideal beliefs stem from, suggests Shayna, a Brooklyn-based nutritionist. Well, at least she's not an anti-nutrition nutritionist, I'll give her that. These beliefs are ingrained in us because of what we've seen in mainstream media our entire lives. Lots of thin, white bodies, not as many marginalized bodies or people of color. Add to that centuries-long connection between Black people and gluttony that Strings discusses in her book, and it becomes clear why there is so little representation of Black people in wellness culture. We have to recognize this concept, which is new for many, says Spence. Do research. Everyone has social media now, especially Instagram. I suggest following Black content creators and diversifying your feed. There is much to learn. There are also plenty of hands-on tools, from interactive webinars to online tests, to help you uncover your implicit biases and avoid stereotyping people based on their appearance. Yes, wouldn't it be nice, Shape Magazine, if we avoided stereotyping people based on their appearances? In an article about how dieting is racist. If you're looking for a deeper dive into the connections between racism and diet culture, be sure to read these books that I'm not going to give promotion to. But again, I will link to this article in the description below if you want to check it out. If you enjoyed this video, even though I was a little hyperbolic today, but really, dude, you can't read this crap without, like, you know, I have to have fun with it. The fun is what keeps me sane. But if you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. I do content almost every single day. Sometimes I take the weekends off, but usually during the week, every single day, around news, politics, culture, woke nonsense like this. That's all I've got for right now. I'll see you soon.